Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of BIM After Dark Live. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jeff, also known as the Revit Kid. If you are a returning visitor to the show, thank you for coming back. And if you're a new visitor to the show, this is a weekly live stream, I guess. It's a sort of video podcast, but a weekly live stream about Revit and all things BIM and Revit related. And one thing I wanted to get into before we jump into it is if for some reason you haven't been able to join us live over the next few weeks, I may start trying some different times. The videos are always available and the episodes are always available after the fact, but there's definitely some benefit to you guys joining us live and being able to ask questions and jump in and collaborate with myself and any of my guests. And so I may be trying some different times just to see if it works out. Maybe we get more folks, maybe we don't, I don't know. But we'll try it out. So keep an eye out for that. And the best way to know when I'm going live is to either head over to the revitkid.com and sign up for my mailing list, or just subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you hit the notification bell on the bottom. So today we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff. Family creation is something that haven't really talked about all that much in these live episodes so far. Just dabbled into a little bit. But my guest today is going to jump into it a little more than other episodes and focus on not crazy, funky, nuts, Zaha Hadid type families, which is what a lot of the content you see out there is, but more of the practical families. And before I introduce Phil, I wanted to also mention that I do have a few free resources on the website for family creation. So if you head over to free.bimafterdark.com, and I'll post it right here on the chat as well as in the comments after the fact. Apparently I did not copy it anymore. Sorry about that. What you'll see is that there is a free family cheat sheet that you can download, and it has a bunch of really important and little things that are important for building families. And there's also a guide that has from 5 of your favorite Revit gurus and their favorite family tips. So definitely check that one out. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest. And so here we go. Philip Chan is my guest tonight. Phil, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
I can. I think everyone can hear us, it seems. People are already saying hello, so it sounds like they can see us. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Phil and I go back a while. As with most of the guests and most of my network within the Revit community, we met at a conference. And I was trying to remember when we first met at a conference, and I forgot to pull it up, but I'm going to pull it up right now because I think it's going to be kind of fun for everyone to see.
It would definitely be RTC back then. I mean, I don't think it's AU because
No.
Yeah, it would be RTC, but I don't know the year. It's been a while.
So I pulled up a video or a page, Phil, that I'll send you a link to right now, but it's from a post of mine from July 30th of 2015, and it's a nice selfie that you took with a selfie stick, I believe.
Okay.
And it's myself and you and Brian Mackey and Steve Stafford and Paul Aubin and Andy Milburn and the whole crew.
Okay. That brings up a memory. Yeah, I remember that selfie.
I think that was in DC, but I don't think that was the first time we met. And I think that was the one though where I remember sitting in your class. You might have done, was it a curtain wall class or something maybe?
I've done a couple of classes that built. I mean, RTC. I mean, Washington DC might be a curtain wall. Yeah, it's an adaptive component curtain.
There we go. That was adaptive component. See, I remember it even 5 years later, so it must have been pretty good. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so before we jump into content, maybe introduce yourself a little bit to those who don't know you, and a little bit about yourself, your background, your history, whatever you want to tell us. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Jeff. So again, hello everybody. I'm Philip Chan, and currently I'm working as a BIM manager at Back Group in the Dallas, Texas, in the state, and kind of pretty much, I manage all things relatively in BIM and Revit. Anything that has the word Revit in it, I'm kind of involved at some point and some extent. So I've been currently kind of working out from the home office currently, just like many people or some people might have returned to the office, but other people are still working from home for the most part during this time. So I previously worked at HKS Architects as well as like Flatos. For I think we have a guest speaker. I mean, Jeff has a guest speaker a couple episodes ago. It was with Dan Stein. So that's where he is right now. So I used to be the BIM manager at like Flato. So,
which is awesome. That's and I think I mentioned this during Dan's, but Lake Flato and is probably one of the top 3 of my favorite architecture firms out there. And so when I know when you and I connected about that, I was pretty pumped to know someone from there. And then I ended up knowing Dan, and I was like, oh man, I know people now at Lake Flato, which is so cool.
Yep, I still miss those people there. Yeah, awesome group there.
Awesome.
So yeah, and so right now I moved up to the North Texas, to the Dallas, Texas, and kind of like Jeff said, I've spoken a couple of conferences in the past few years, mainly Autodesk University Build, which is kind of now called the BEI. It's a little bit hard to remember. Everybody either go back to RTC, which is days back, years ago, or Build. Yeah. Also, I presented one class at Midwest U, are hosted by CTC, and also now is with ATG. All the names, all the acronyms.
right.
And, so besides presenting classes or seminars, and I do have a blog called Phil-osophy in BIM. I can share that on my. Jeff, you can look it up and share it if you want. Yep. And some of the things that I'm going to share today with you guys actually come from my blog post, and there's some new material that I actually want to share with you as well. So check that out. Or send me any questions if you want. I have pretty active on Twitter as well, so I'll be posting some things here on left and right on Twitter. Just whenever I have something new material to share with you guys. That's pretty much all I have about myself, my intro. So
awesome. Yeah. So I posted a link in the chat, and I'll post a link to your blog, which is the Phil-osophy BIM.blogspot.com. But I'll put the links in the chat and in the description after this live, and I'll also put a link to your Twitter page too, so everyone can follow you there. Awesome. And so we're going to talk about family stuff today. When Phil and I were chatting about what to talk about, he was pretty pumped about talking about families. So I said, let's do it. And then I realized we haven't really touched on it too much in the series so far. So this is pretty cool. I know people are into it and want to know more. The other thing I want to remind everyone is that this is live right now, unless you're watching it tomorrow or 2 hours from now. It's live currently. And if you're watching it live, feel free to ask questions, make comments, whatever you want in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that, and there's a little bit of a delay, but what I'll do is if it's something I think it's worth asking, we're going to ask it live, and we're going to answer questions live. And so that's the benefit of this format, is it's not just me interviewing Phil and editing it afterwards. It's you being able to ask us questions as we go through this conversation. So with all that being said, I think maybe if you're ready, Phil, to just take it away with some cool family content, and then we'll see where the night takes us.
Okay, all right. I will. First of all, I'll go ahead and share my screen here, and share. Jeff, if you let me know, you can see my screen and everything.
Yep, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Perfect. So I see Revit right now, and if you want to see your own face, make sure you uncheck that webcam thing too, so everyone can see your face. There we go. Hey.
Okay. Awesome.
Now you're on the spotlight the entire time, Phil.
Okay. All right. So I have I'm trying this little thing here.
Oh, cool. What's this?
Okay. All right. So this is something that I saw one of the AU presenter that using this live or polling website. So
awesome.
Again, I have 2 questions. First of all, if you want to, tag along just for fun, and go ahead and enter that site, or go to mentor.com and then type in the code 6629717.
Yep, and I just posted a link in the chat. I think that will get them directly to that as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you guys click the link in the chat and answer the question, which is what's your Revit experience, and he's got some years going on here, right?
Wow. Okay. Okay. We have 2 already submitted the poll. 4. Oh
Oh
my
man,
gosh.
we got some experts on the line, man.
Oh boy. Now you're scaring me here. 6 people.
Oh, there we go. All right, getting better. Everyone's scaring Phil with all these 10+ years. They're all
Okay. All right. I'll give it another 10 seconds and then we will
awesome.
move on to the next question. But wow.
This is
Wow. I'm
cool.
impressed.
Wow, we got a lot of 10-year vets here, man. And 2 to 5. Okay, all right. There we go. There we go. Now it's balancing out.
Okay. All right. So I didn't count. I think 10 seconds up. So looks like, I'll wait for another 5 seconds. Looks like someone's still trying to poll. No, this is fun.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I've
Yeah.
never seen this before.
Okay.
The real time is super neat.
Yep, it is real time. Yep. So we have, okay, wow. 50 people, 52, 53. Okay. I'll keep it another 10 seconds. How's that?
Awesome, awesome.
Okay. 55. Okay. It looks like we start with 55 people. Okay. Wow. So only 11%. So we have what, 5 people, 2-year experience or less, and then so 29%. So that's so we have 58 total people. So okay, that's good. That's a great group here. I mean,
Yeah,
like I
it's a good blend actually. So I'm kind of surprised with the results here. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's cool to see generally where everyone stands. But actually, when you look at it, you got 42% that are 5 years or less, which is can be considered
yeah. So we have
they
more
may
than
be seeing
half.
some of the stuff. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, we have more than half that are 5+ year experience. This is awesome. Okay, so I have one more. So let me see. Okay, this is there. It is. Okay, kind of similar questions, but this is to ask you the Revit building experience, family building experience.
Awesome. I'll post the link to this as well, guys, so you can see.
Okay, it's the same. I think it's the same code and everything.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. There we go.
Okay, I'll probably let it run for about 30 seconds.
All right. So that's kind of what I thought it was going to be if it keeps going this way. Let's see.
Okay. 17. So where are the 40 people there? There were 60 people polling earlier. All right.
I was trying to figure out how to answer this one after they said, 10 years of experience. How many years have you been building content, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a tricky question because not necessarily, I have people with 10 plus rough experience and not really building a single family in the past.
Yep. And that's exactly what, when I'm teaching students about family creation and parametric modeling, and that's what I say. I tell them, you go to a firm, you're going to be surprised how many people have never even opened the family editor, but they use Revit perfectly fine. Because the reality is, you don't necessarily have to if your content is really good, right? But at the same time, there's a certain level of freedom when you start learning that, right?
Yep. Okay, I think time's up. We have 65 people
Cool.
polling. This is awesome. So this is definitely different and interesting because obviously we have people who have 10-year experience, only 25% building family this time compared to 30 something percent earlier.
Super cool. Thanks for answering, guys. Thanks for thanks for answering on the poll. It's really neat.
Yeah,
really
thanks
neat.
for joining along the ride. So I'm gonna switch over. All right, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna move over that guy right there, and everyone's still seeing my screen. Okay, Jeff.
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
All right. So basically, kind of do a quick little bit of the reason why I want to talk about this. So I have a number of different quote unquote tips and tricks that I want to share with you all, and some of them more or less, the first one I'm going to show you basically talk about how to kind of fix the problem that we have by using content from the other sources, like manufactured content, for example. That's one of the common issues that I come across these days because everywhere all the companies seem to offer the free content, and depending on the company policy, we a little bit lax these days about letting manufactured content come in, just because there are like furniture content that are pretty nicely done these days. They are better quality compared to a couple of years ago, I think, or even 10 years ago, that these content should be or could be used in the project. But once in a while you get stuck and you notice something very, very odd. This is one of the example I want to show you guys how you get around it, how to fix that. It's very, very simple trick. And so I'll share that. But overall, like I said, the overall kind of theme about the tips and tricks that I share with you all tonight is basically they are very simple, but some of them are not known by a lot of people. They are more like a secret tips and tricks type of deal. So I hope by learning this simple tips and trick, you'll be able to use it on your day-to-day work and just be more efficient. And that's basically kind of the overall theme about what kind of the things I want to share with you all. Okay. All right. And again, kind of like Jeff said, feel free to ask any questions. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to jump into that first of all. So I'll go to kind of talk about the problem that we have here. Let me see. All right. So basically, I'm going to go ahead and open this family just to kind of show you what we're dealing with. Okay, so basically, I have these manufactured content that I downloaded, and you can download it anywhere for free. I mean, like this is the one example that I use is called Hightower. That's the furniture manufacturer that I come across, and they do have pretty nicely done Revit content because all you see right now, this is a native geometry content. It doesn't really have any quote unquote imported geometry like AutoCAD, SketchUp, or anything like that. So it's natively built. So, but let me show you the problem. Why this is not necessarily a good content. I mean, it still requires some attention to fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and load it to the project. Of course, it doesn't quite let me, so I'm just gonna go to here. I'm using my short key. Sorry. So if just for efficiency standpoint, if you don't see what I'm doing, please stop, or I'll explain what I hit my hotkey. So I'm basically using my component hotkey to load my family. Okay, so when you first load it to the project, everything looks okay, right? It looks like, oh, okay, it looks like a chair. It's got a clean shape of it and everything. By the time, let me go ahead and switch this chair with the other chair, and I'll show you the problem. So this guy over here, I'm going to go ahead and do rotation because they do have different rotation there. And let me go ahead and drag it here and look at that. So you'll be like, okay, what is going on? So I'm going to go ahead and copy a couple more chair.
We should have taken a poll to see how many times this has happened to people before.
that would be a good one. But you can see the idea. You can see the issue here. It's like, okay, what is going on? Let's go ahead and take a look at the 3D view, right? So in 3D view, this chair is actually doing what it's supposed to. I mean, it's not. It's at the 0 level here. You can see that this is elevation 0. It's resting on level 1. And then it is below the table. So there is some issue with that. Basically, I'm gonna come back and explain why. But the problem with that is now by the time you change, let me go ahead and switch that to that. So I'm not going to rotate it, but just to kind of give you an idea. By the time you see, your designer that actually placing chairs and table like that, you'll be like, what is going on? That just doesn't read right. I mean, and don't by any means, do not do that, right? Do not try to just say, okay, I'm just going to drop this and see if that will fix it. That fix it, right? But it's wrong.
Right.
It's wrong. Don't do that and try to fix it. So definitely there's something wrong, and it all comes down to how the family was built in the first place, or how it was put together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and open this family here. And again, so we're back to the family here. So let's take a look at what's going on from plan view. Basically, what happens is in the reference level, which is the plan view with the geometry, there is a nested family here. Well, how do I know that? Because when I select it, I have this icon that shows up as a nested family. Okay, and also if I expand it in the browser, you will also see that these are the nested family component. And I'm just going to focus on this component right now. And what happens is when I open this nested family here, and again, this is still a native geometry in Revit. Again, kudos for what they do. The problem with that again is that if I go back to the reference level of the nested family, which is just the seating, there is a masking region there. Masking region again, depending on how your perception is. I'm not a big fan of masking region,
No.
and there are a number of different reasons why masking region could be bad for your library content. Like I said, I'm not a big fan, but basically what it's doing is that because of the masking region, is doing what it's supposed to do, masking. So it literally masks out everything that got in the way. So that means that this masking region is covering up the table itself, which is kind of like what Revolves supposed to do. But again, it's not intended to, right? Because the graphic looks completely wrong from here, right? Okay, so what's the fix? I mean, just I'm trying to get their point. Okay, all right. So there's a couple of ways to go around it to fix it. So first of all, you could actually get rid of this for good. If I delete that masking region, and before I load it back to the host, you kind of need to make sure that this geometry here, I'm going to select everything and go to the filter. I'm only going to select the solid. I'm not the void. Again, if you didn't know this feature, I think it was introduced a couple of years ago. I can select just the solid, and that doesn't quite do it justice. I'm going to have to tab select that and go to the visibility setting. I need to make sure that the plan setting on the views or visibilities also turn on if I actually want to use the native geometry for the graphic representation. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this guy as well because they were created by two different geometry. That's why I can't select more than one to fix this graphic. So I'm going to select both of them and then load back to the host before I load it back to the project. Okay, I'm going to override that. And you can see that right now is showing the shape of the 3D geometry now. I'm going to load it back to the project and look at that. Okay, all of a sudden the graphics looks much more correct. So
Great.
So that's one way to go about it. Okay, but what if you'd be like, okay, I don't like to see that geometry because it's still not clean. I'm okay with that actually myself, and we pretty much, like I said, we try to stick with native geometry and try to use the 3D geometry to represent the plan graphic for our library content. So in this case, this is working for us. This is what we want. But for those of you who want to stay, you know what? I still like to have that symbolic graphic, that masking region. Can we go about fixing it? Absolutely. There's another way. So I'm going to go back to this one here. So I'm going to undo everything back, right? I'm going to undo everything back here. So when I select the masking region, the masking region here, there is something that no one quite tells you because I don't know, it sounds like a secret. When you select it, first thing first is you need to tell the geometry. You need to tell the masking region where it's associated with. What I mean by that, let's go ahead and take a look at the elevation view. Okay, so I have to turn on all the reference here for a second. Okay, so you can see right now the seating, the masking region, actually, I toggle back, should be associated with what? With this reference, okay? So there's a reference name, reference plane called S here. So first thing I'm going to do is to select the geometry and use edit work plane and make sure that that masking region is associated with this reference plane and hit OK. So basically now the masking region is kind of hovering at this plane here. That's the first thing. I'm going to go back to the plan view again. The second thing you have to do is to select the masking region. And there's a checkbox by default. It's always checked. You actually have to uncheck this one called draw in foreground. So go ahead and uncheck that. That's all. Okay, let's try it again the second time, right? Let's go back and load the changes back to the host. And then, of course, it looks kind of funny, but it should be okay. So let's go ahead and, I think I know why, because let's go back here. Oh, you know what? I think it's good. I think this, yeah. So because I undid everything before I make the changes, I'm gonna go ahead and load back the changes to the project. See what happened. Okay, yeah, there is some issue with the lake, but again, I'll look into that for a second. But you can see right now it is underneath the table, which is the way it's supposed to. And again, I haven't changed any of the chair elevation yet in 3D, but again, so that's the graphic that looks supposed the way it is. And so in that case, what we can do is we can, I think for the sake of time, we can either turn off the lake geometry. We can simply turn off this one. Just do a quick test and load it back to the project. That didn't do it. I think I selected the wrong geometry there. Okay, yeah, it should be this guy. Yep, you see here when I select it. Okay, let's check it out. Here we go. Yeah. Well, again, you can argue that, okay, it's missing the lake again. There are other ways to actually show the lakes, but I think the trick or the workaround I want to show you is there, because of their masking region that were in the nested family, it's literally like covering up the table, because what happens is the masking region doesn't know where it's at. It needs to know, so you have to correct the masking region to tell Revit that, okay, it is supposed to be at seating height. Otherwise, the masking region is always going to cover up whatever that gets in the way.
Yeah, I think I was just reading through the chat a little bit as you're going along, and some folks are talking about some other workarounds they had, but so there's the two things, just to reiterate what you just showed. There's the two things that are really important. There's the foreground, which no one ever sees in masking region, right? So when you click the masking region, it's in the foreground. But then I actually never even thought about using the work plane. And so even though it's technically an annotation object, right? A masking region is technically not a 3D object. It still has a host because it's in Revit. Everything has a freaking host, right? And so what you're doing is you're saying, I want you to mask at this level. So you're almost controlling the sort of bring to front or send to back setup like you would if it was like a detail region or anything like that. You're almost controlling the layers of that. And so I think that's actually what happened with your legs, is probably that reference plane that you used, right? That reference plane was that like sitting somewhere in the leg geometry, and that's why you had that weird thing happen. But that's really cool. I actually never even thought about taking that route of, rehosting, or at least hosting, because by default, if you go back into that family, what does it default into? Your reference level, or is it just not hosted?
No, not hosted. It was not associated.
It's not associated. So then it's just going to always be in front, basically, right? If it's not hosted.
So based on that idea, I think you might be right. So I can basically say, if I just do a quick test here, I'm going to have this reference plane here. And have this one rehosted, because that is going to be higher than the lake. I'm going to call it seating. I'm going to load it back to the host, override it, and of course I'm going to select this lake again, and I'm going to turn this back on, because now the masking region should be above this lake.
Right.
And let me see if that fixes it. It's a good call. Look at that.
Yeah, and I think that's important, just because for people who are trying to understand the concept of it, I think seeing that now, just how you sort of raised it up, I think shows people the concept of what you're doing here. You're taking this mask, and it's covering the geometry even in the family, right? Except for the what's sticking out. But then you also have to use that foreground and that actual level to make it, in the project, make it so that it's sitting in a location that makes sense.
Yeah.
right? Because remember, you moved your chair down, right, -1.6 and it actually was under the table because wherever Revit was defaulting that mask to, you can still get it underneath it by telling Revit I want it to be lower, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, masking region is kind of tricky in family or editor environment. I mean, like this is one of the things that, again, if you don't need to use it, don't use it. It's kind of my attitude. It's kind of my recommendations, unless you have to maintain that symbolic graphic that the way your company standards is or some of your preferences. Then I would try to use masking region to try to do that. Otherwise, is masking region really doesn't do I mean it's only gonna get in this way for the most part. I mean that's been our experience. So
Awesome.
okay.
Super
All
cool,
right.
man.
Okay. All right. So I got a couple more. I just don't know. Okay, I'm just trying to go through as many as I can.
Go for it, man. I
Yeah,
just
I want.
wanted to reiterate that because I thought that was a really cool point. I wanted to make sure everyone saw those. That the punchline of that was those two little things right there, and understand the concept for sure.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna talk about this really quick tip thing here. Let me see. I'm gonna just have to drag this in. I'm just gonna open this. So this is one of the things that I wrote about on my blog just not too long ago. And again, this is something. Don't bother with the shape of this because I didn't really do anything with that. This is another content that I just use it as a demo. So basically, I talk about you know building kids parks. I do tend to do a lot of nested family whenever I'm building content, just because for the efficiency, I will be able to build any kids parks a nested family for repurposing it for future use. And also again, if why building nested family is important, because there are things that you really need to require the technique of using nested family or multi-level nesting in order to kind of put together a family. Anyway, this is another quick and easy tip here. I'm just going to talk about it really quick. So again, I find this this little healthcare card equipment that I just thought, okay, you know what? They do have a nice caster, like nice wheel. And what if I wanted to repurpose that little thing here for my family without building this little wheel from scratch? Because this might be good enough for me to use it for my family, but then again, I don't want to rebuild this from scratch. So what do I do? And I want to use it as a nested family. So the pretty easy trick right now is that these guys, all you need to do is you have to, first of all, if they're not in the model group, you just have to, assign them to the model group. Since I already have this here from this example, I'm just going to use that for the demo, right? So I have this as a model group. If I want to save this here, if you actually have used save group in a project environment, turns out there is a feature in the family editor as well. So all you need to do is to go to the browser, go to the group tab here, model group, and in this case, I have this model group as a caster. So right click from this guy and basically do a save group there. And of course, I'm going to save it as the same name. It's going to be caster. I'm going to save it to my desktop. You know what? I'm going to save it to this folder here. And so Rev is going to save this and extract this group and as a separate family. So I already have this here. I'm going to go ahead and open this guy. And just like that, I now have a nested family. The good thing about this is, let's take a look. I'm going to go to the plan view. It does kind of pretty much center in the origin. And as well as, okay, the scale is just kind of off the chart here. And this one happens to be resting on the reference level, which is good. Why is that? Actually, if you go back to this family, when you made this as a model group, you see that little dot there, that's the insertion point. So as long as you identify that insertion point to where you want it, it's going to determine that to be your origin of the family, of the nested family. So again, I just kind of luck out because it just happened to be in the center of the caster. So it works out by the time I save this group as a separate family, and now basically I have the family that ready to use, ready to go. And the nice thing about this is that if I have material that was from the host, the material also came with it. Okay, so it's also it doesn't. I don't think they have a material parameter, but otherwise, if they have material parameter associated with this geometry, it will carry over the material parameter for you as well in the nested family.
Wow.
So
Cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
So the geometry. I'm just gonna again reiterate it so everyone follows. The geometry was built in the other family. Then you just make a group out of it, and then you can save the group out. So this wasn't a nested family. This was obviously a built. So any of the other casters that were in a group, those were just individual modeled elements.
Yep. So I could move this guy out here, and if I ungrouped it, these are just a bunch of sweep and I think sweep and revolve, all the things that was natively built in this host family. It wasn't a nested family to begin with.
Very cool.
But,
No, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's neat.
Yep.
So then, I guess the only question I would have, and I'm assuming someone's going to ask this, but maybe not. So the materials came through, not the parameters. If any of that geometry had parameters built in it, I assume that would not come through. Let's if there was any type of parameters in that geometry somehow, maybe there's within the sketch or something like that, would that come through? Because I'm obviously the parameters within the family may not.
I could probably, let's do a quick test here. That's a good question. So let me see if let me go ahead and hide this field. That is odd.
Groups, man, groups.
Okay, so let's just say if I want this whole thing here as a model group. See what I got. I'm just going to call it show. And okay, looks like the insertion points are pretty good. I'm just gonna go for it. And save group, same location. Okay, let's see. So I have this open here. I'm gonna open it. Okay, so now this is a separate family. I think I might have to, if I actually including the reference plane and the parameter in the model group, I might be able to go.
Interesting.
Yeah, you see here, it does that, but not the parameter itself. I'm not sure. I haven't done really extensive testing on that, but
that's still really cool. I mean,
want to look into that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. If I can see, if you use someone else's family, or even if you built your own and you want to nest something, you can pull it out. And even if you had to rebuild some things a little bit, if it's bringing it out, this is pretty clean. It's not that hard to, add some constraints and rebuild it. And now you have a nested piece that you can throw into other families. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. Usually I would probably use this technique on things that is like a one size, is a fixed size. It's not a flexible size. Like it's probably one of the fixed size. I don't have to deal with the parameters or being parametric and anything like that. So yeah, that works out for me. But, Okay, so that's for this one. I'm going to go ahead and move on because for others, I actually need to spend a little bit more time explaining the kind of step-by-step process. So I'm going to move on to the next one.
Go for it, man.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about this guy here. Okay. I'll do a quick kind of storytelling in this case. I'll start with a generic model pieces here. I'll get rid of this kind of annoying note here. Okay, so basically, anyone who made sweep or swept blend in Revit, you kind of have an idea how to actually create that. And basically, there are two tips and tricks that I want to share. Actually, has to do with using a profile family as a nested family to create a sweep or swept blend. So, and the technique that you can apply again, you can use it on anything that is sweep or again, swept plan. You can't use it on extrusion, nothing for revolve, or nothing for blend. You just can't use this technique on other things. Only sweep and swept blend. Okay, all right. Basically, the idea of that is I'll start a simple geometry in this blank file here. So if I go for a sweep object, basically you have to start off with a path. I'm just going to go ahead and do a simple path here and just do a straight path like that. Second thing Revit asking you to do basically is to do what? Is to draw the profile that will sweep along that path, right? That's what sweep does. So basically you have two options. Most people that I know, they choose to use sketch mode. Sketch mode means that if you do a sketch, essentially, let me see, I'm kind of stuck. Oh, I actually got this prompt here.
Oh man, that's the worst when you're on a different monitor. Oh man.
yeah, it's asking me to say, okay, where do I want to draw the shape, right? So basically, if I want to draw a shape, let's just do a rectangle. You're gonna draw a shape like that, and it's gonna sweep along like that, right? So everybody get this idea, right? But have you ever tried actually by not sketching a path by using something like a nested family, right? So nested family, in other words, is that you have to. I'm going to go ahead and start a family by using a profile family. So I'm going to use, and only any profile family template works, but usually I just use the one that is just called profile, or it does everything I need. And again, I'm going to draw something like, in this case, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to draw like a L shape. Of course, tips. Make sure that if you're new or you haven't done it for a while, make sure that your line work is continuous, is enclosed. No open gap or nothing like that. Open lapping lines, nothing like that. So again, I'm gonna load it to my other geometry. I haven't done anything yet at this point, but again, I have a nested profile. How do I know I have a nested profile family? By going through the project browser, and I know that I have a nested profile family loaded to this family, right? Okay, here's the trick. So now I'm going to go back and basically I'm making a modification of the sweep, and I'm going to go to edit sweep. And under the select profile here, I'm choosing the one that I just loaded, which is called family 4. And just like that, right? So I'm going to finish my editing first. Just like that right now. So what happens is when I use a nested profile in my sweep creation, once I create it here, something interesting, something amazing happened there. What is that? You select that geometry. Now you're seeing something that you normally don't see when you use the sketch mode. So what are these things? So under the profile here, you have a couple of things called profile horizontal profile offset, vertical offset, angle, and the checkbox here. I'm just going to go through that one at a time, right? So you can also access this setting when you are back to the editing mode. If you select the profile here, you also get to have these options, but usually I just do it after the fact that I have the sweep made. So here's the cool thing. So let's look at this one here. So basically I can change the dimension of where that horizontal offset is or the vertical offset. So that's some of the things that you can already do, okay? But what's more interesting is that you can also do the, you know what? I'm going to skip this because I have one example that I show you what I use it for. I'm just going to do this guy here, a checkbox. Essentially, with this checkbox checked, I can flip this geometry left to right or right to left. Okay, so here comes what I want to use it for. I have an example here that I have already pre-made. So let me go to that directly. Okay, this guy here. Okay, so I have these profile made. So let's look at just what I did as far as the line work goes. Basically, this is a shape that I make, and I'm actually about to show you how to use a profile family in order to model a exposed beam, structural beam. Okay, so this is a shape that I have, and I'm gonna turn this back on. Are You can actually make that as a fixed size, but I usually tend to make it as a parameter profile family because again, I will definitely be able to flex it and do things that I want to associate with the host. Okay, so that is the shape of the profile. I'm gonna go open this guy here. So this one here, let me put it on the screen. For those of you who have used structural beam in Revit, basically regular, this is just a regular structural beam. And the reason I use it as a demo is because if you have used that or if you ever examine the structural beam family, it has some of this built-in parameter or it actually using a specialized template which is only for structural framing. And I'm basically repurposing the structural beam family and use that and modify something on top of that. Okay, so that's basically what I'm trying to show you guys. All right, and like I said, this is just a regular structural beam. It could be wood, it could be concrete, it could be steel, and the concept is all the same. All right, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use this nested profile nested to the beam there. And okay, so now I'm about to make a sweep object out of that. And so here goes. I'm going to use sweep here. I like to do that in 3D because I'm going to show you why. When I use sweep, I like to use the pick path instead of the sketch path. Especially pick path works really well if I have existing geometry already in the family. So I'm going to use pick path here. I'm simply picking this path right here, which is kind of the width of my beam, just like that. Okay, I'm going to finish picking path. And the second thing I'm going to do, instead of drawing the sketch, I'm going to use the one that's called void, which is the one that I've made like this. By the way, I'm making a solid sweep, and I'll explain why I do that. And there's a very good reason I do that. Just I've been doing that for so long. I just kind of force of habit. Anyway, so now that I have this made here, you see the checkbox of the profile script is also there. And in this case, since I'm trying to make a cut to the wood, so I want to make sure that my void is actually cutting out the wood, which is the beam. Kind of like that. I know the size is a little bit off, which is okay. But I'm going to go ahead and finish that. All right. So now that I have a solid sweep made, then I can actually go to the properties of my sweep and switch it between a solid and void. This has actually been around for years. I learned this trick actually from Phil when he talked about why he does this as a solid first and switch it to void. Because if you actually build void in family, void is going to cut out any solid that gets in the way, whether you choose to cut that solid or not. It doesn't give you an option. Whenever you finish the void, it start cutting the things that basically intercepting. Sometimes if you have more than one solid in your family, you kind of want to say, you know what, I want my void to cut this specific solid, not the one Revit actually dictates to. So anyway, the point of that is if you actually start out with a solid and switch it to a void like I have here, I get to choose what solid I'm using my void to cut, right? So that's basically all I'm doing here. But since I only have one geometry, it really doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm kind of want to talk about why I do that.
No, that's a great tip. I was wondering where you're going with that, but you're right. If you have 17 pieces of geometry and you draw a void, it's going to cut anything it touches usually when you finish the sketch. Whereas if you only want it to touch one thing, you start as a solid, then you flip it and you do it. That's great. That's an awesome tip.
Yep. So okay. So now that of course the one little step that I have to do, I have to use the cut geometry over here. I'm going to use cut geometry, select my solid and my void, and boom, I've done that, right? Okay. So here's the cool part. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make an exposed beam and use it for. I'm going to actually have an example to show you. I'm going to make a trellis out of it, right? By using a beam system. If you actually use that, the thing right now is, what if I actually want this beam to not have a cut, or sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. What do I do, right? In this case, going back to the void here, you can see the checkbox is also there. What's more is I can actually associate this family parameter to the host. I'm going to go and create a new parameter. It is a yes no parameter, and I'm going to call it expose beam. In this case, because I have two ends, I usually call it A or B or front or back or left or right. So I'm just going to call it A for now. And I kind of want to use it as an instant parameter. Okay, I'm going to call it instant parameter. I'm going to group it under like a graphic for now. Hit OK and hit OK. All right, so let's test it out. Let's flex this family here. So flexing, for those of you who know the term well, I'm going to go to the family types, and I'm going to just flex this checkbox and see what it does. Boom. So what it does right now is when I check the box, essentially what happens is my void is actually flip away from the solid. Therefore, the void is not cutting the solid. But the good news is even the void is not cutting the solid, it's not going to throw an error in Revit. It won't. The void is just going to stand by itself, and just like that, basically. And of course, when the family is loaded to the project, you're not going to see the void because, again, void is default to invisible. Okay, so basically with this concept, you now have a beam that will allow you to have an exposed beam cut or not. Basically, that's what comes down to it.
Awesome.
Okay?
That is super cool.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I want to show you, because and remember, for the beam family, it has all the different sizes, right? Because right now you have 2x10, if you're 2x12. So what if you actually want the void to interact with your size, your depth, which is this value over here? And now you can, if I actually have that parameter, right? So let's go back to this, not this one. I'm going to turn this off. What if I have this value here tied back to the host? So I'm going to go back to this guy. All you need to do is go back to the project browser and go to the profile family and locate the profile family that I made and select this one. By double clicking it here, I'd be able to expose my type properties, which is my depth value here. And all I need to do is associate that family parameter to what? To D, which is the depth of the beam, and hit OK. And look at that. All the parameters now talk to each other. They all link to each other, and hit OK. And you can see now the beam is self-adjusting here. So let's take a look by the time when I flex it from 2x10 to 2x12 and see what happens. It's going to self-adjust it because now, again, this value is tied back to the depth, which is the depth of the beam. Okay. All right. So let's do a quick one. I know I got more to show, and I'm looking at the clock right now. I've got a couple minutes here, so I can stay over. But
do your thing, man. Do your thing. Everyone's still super interested, and that was an awesome awesome little knowledge bomb right there. So let's do it.
Okay,
keep going.
All
keep going.
So I'm gonna do. I could do another one, but for the sake of time, I'm just gonna load it to the project. I have this little house project, right? I'm gonna load it there. All right. So. Interesting. Okay, I'm just gonna override that family that looks like it's already loaded into sample model. It's okay. So I'm gonna draw this guy first of all. So let's take a look in 3D Real here together. Of course, I did that earlier. Okay, so look at that right now. So I have this beam family here. So what happens is, because it's an instant parameter, so now I have this checkbox here that I could turn it on or off any way I like it. Of course, if I make the same thing on the other end and have another yes/no parameter associated with that profile, I can now independently control my beam, my exposed beam, wherever I want it. And here's the cool part. All right, so I'm going to go back to the floor plan here really quick. Let's go ahead and hide this guy. Again, for those of you who actually use a beam system, it's under the structure tab, the beam system here. I'm going to throw an easy one here. I'm just going to do just a rectangular shape. I'm going to switch back to 3D and show you how I want to just play with this here. So basically, for those of you who know how to use beam system, you basically telling Revit that I want to use the type of beam that is already loaded in your project. In this case, I'm using 2x10 or 2x12, doesn't matter. You can tell Revit and say, I want this beam to be 12-inch in center. I'm just going to type that as a fixed distance. Justification, I'm just going to leave it at center for now and hit OK. Boom. Now I have a series of beams that I could use it for my trellises. I could use it for my exposed canopy, roof structure, what have you. Okay, so the cool part, of course, is I can tab select each beam again, and I can tell it to independently control some, maybe have exposed beam, maybe I have exposed beam at the end conditions, or vice versa, but I can totally do it now. The reason why I would start out with this existing structural beam framing family is that because the only time you can use the beam system is to use the structural framing family using that specific template. So therefore, I don't want to use anything but that particular structural beam family. That's why using the one from out the box is ideal. All I need to do is just do a little bit of modification on top of that and save it as a separate family. So here's what I mean by that. I'm going to go back to this guy here. So basically what I would have done is I'll show you here. Right, let me pull this guy. This is the one that I've been using as a demo. It has a type catalog txt file, right? If I open this guy, essentially I have all the wood lumber dimension sizes and whatnot, right? So it's a type catalog for those of you who know what that is, right? Basically, what I would do is I would go back and save this family here. I'll do a quick save as. Where did it go? There it is. I'm going to save this. I'll just call it what it is. I'm just going to dash expose beam, just like that. Hit save. Okay, so one more step. I'm going to go back to the windows here. Now that I have a family, save it as a new one. All I do is copy, paste this one here, and do what? And rename to the exact text, exact wording, right? So now I have these two side by side, right? So now with this being a new family, I can then go back to the project here. You know what? Let's just go close this one. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to go back to the project. If I were to go to structural tab, go to beam, and use low family here, choosing this one, and watch. All the type catalog sizes is going to come with it, just like that. I'm just going to choose, you know what? I'm going to choose a couple, like that, and hit OK. And you know what? Now, all the size is going to be brought in from this new family. Again, one simple step by using a nested profile family and modify the existing content. Now you gain so much more.
So that's pretty cool. So because it's the same family, instead of exporting the type catalogs or recreating the type catalog because it's the same, you just copied, pasted, and renamed, and Revit's looking forward anyways.
Yep.
Neat. Super cool.
Yep. So like I said, you can, so what I do in the past is you can have this as a separate family and be part of your library content, right? So, and the cool part of that, of course, besides everything that, here is now with this nested profile, you can use it for something else, right? Because you're building that Kids of Parks library for something else. Because what if you want to use this shape for my other wood beams? Maybe you don't want to use it. Maybe steel. Maybe what if you want to use it for a wide flange steel beam? You can totally do that by using the family profile that you already built. You can just repurposing it without doing something from scratch, right? So super simple.
Awesome.
Okay.
So cool, man.
Okay. So I know right now 7:32. I actually let me see. I got one that I really want to show. I don't know what's everybody feel like.
Everyone's pumped, man. Just keep going. Let's show.
Okay, all right.
Let's do this last one because I want to see it too.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna close some of this stuff before I continue. Okay, I'm gonna leave this one just so that I can talk. Let me just close out some of the stuff. Okay, I think. Okay, that is good enough. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this file that I used it, right? All right, same concept here. I'm just gonna ditch this one. I'm gonna start over. What I mean by that is, let's talk about the concept first, okay? So let's just say I have. Actually, I'm trying to get to my point here. I'm gonna make a sweep this time vertically, and I'll show you why. So I'm gonna go to sweep again. This time I'm not using pick path. I'm just sketching a path here, and I am going to lock this path here. So one of the things, if you have not, oops, I actually have two on top of each other. Let me undo that. If you have not used this technique, you're missing out. What I mean is, you every time I'm in the middle of the sketch path thing in sweep, you want to make sure that I want to align and lock this end point of my sketch line, like just align and lock like that, right? And what happens is now my sketch of my sweep is going to tie to this length here if I were to turn this as a parameter, okay? So totally worth it. This is like, 2 seconds of a thing that you can do on the fly. So I'm going to do that first. And this time, of course, I'm going to repurpose this little L-shaped thingy over here, right? And I'm going to go ahead and finish it. Okay, so as you can see earlier, when I go back here, I have this angle parameter are exposed because I use it as the profile family, right? And by default, it's 0. So what really happens is, let's go ahead and look at it from the top view. When I select this and say I can do a 45, for example, and I can do a 60, and you can see where I'm going with, I suppose, right? So I can actually use it as a rotation parameter value in family creation. And here's more. I can do anything from 0 to 360 degree, or negative 0 to negative 360 degree, and it won't break.
Wow.
Not by chance. I could type anything, of course, anything, any degree, positive, negative, and it won't break at all. Which is awesome, because if you actually have struggled to create family that has to rotate, you might use, I don't know, reference plane or reference line, something like that, to control the rotation. But oftentimes you come to a point where, okay, wow, you might be breaking at some angle when you try to flex it. I don't know if you struggle with that. I definitely did in the past. Using this technique, you will not break it at all by any chance. And again, you can do that to the sweep. You can also do it to the swap button as well. So swap button, of course, you can actually use it to two profile. What that means is, if you have a profile family set on both ends, I'm going to just do that little animation thing here. You can actually have two of this profile rotating opposite or in the same direction. So what that means is you can create some interesting object geometry.
That one sounds like you could break.
No, it won't break. It just turns into a really, really odd shape. Yeah, and I've done that enough to try to break it.
So with a swept blend, I'm assuming you have a rotational parameter for each profile then? The swept blend?
Absolutely correct. So they basically, you gain two set of angle value for both profiles. So that means you can
awesome.
Like I said, you can set it to the opposite rotation. You can just do it with similar rotation, so that you can create this interesting effect just in a single swept blend geometry. Okay, so let me get to that here, because this is basically this is a concept, right? So what I have basically is, let me go ahead and talk about this guy. All right. So recently, I have to make this one just based on one of the project that I need, we need in the office, and I just thought, okay, you know what, I can do a little bit of fun by taking this, by using the same technique there. And I've used this technique throughout the years on many family creations, but this is the most recent one that I actually did that. Okay. All right. So let's kind of break it down how I kind of go about the process, right? All right. So first thing first is this is again, you can see that this is like a security turnstile gate. I mean, like for airport, not airport, but for a secure building, you're gonna need this sort of even for zoo, right? I mean, zoo. I've been to a zoo where you need something like that just to kind of keep people away from, like going in. But anyway, so the concept of that basically is I have this whole thing as a nested family here. So I'm just gonna open that nested family. All right. So from this nested family here, I have another nested family, which I'm just trying to, yeah, you can see that right now. I have this as an array nested family. This rod here, for now, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to hide it because it's really not what I'm trying to explain. So I'm just going to isolate that element. What I'm trying to show you is the core. I have some other geometry here, which I'm going to turn off as well. I'm going to select all three of these here and hide it. Really what I want to expose is this guy. This is all I want to show you. What is this? This is exactly the same thing as, wait, as this one. Only the exception is that it's a triangle shape of a sweep, right? So again, if I break it down here, I'm going to go ahead and add to the sweep. And I'm using a triangle profile family that I call it. And I'm going to basically finish it. When I select it, you see here, I have that angle parameter that I actually make that as a call rotation family parameter. And again, if I were to go back to the family itself, nothing but just 3 lines. That's it. I didn't have to make it complicated because this core is actually one size for that particular content that I need to build. I don't even have parameters to set up. I just basically draw what? I just draw a polygon, and it's a 3-side polygon that, just like that. That's it. That's all I have. So I'm going to go back, right? So I'm going to go back to the host. And once I load it to this host here, I basically made that as a sweep object. That's it. And set this as a parameter called rotation. So here's the cool part now, right? So let me unhide everything. I'm gonna explain how to work with this guy. So right now, when I unhide everything, let's check it out when I flex this. Everything's gonna rotate. Okay, so that's it. I mean, it's very simple. Okay, I'm basically building something from a nested family for a sweep, and use that as a I don't know, as a thing to drive everything else. Okay, so I'm gonna break it down a little bit further. What I mean by that is, let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and break everything here. How's that? Let me just go ahead and select all this. I'm just gonna delete this guy. I might even go further and delete all this so that I can explain what's going on. Okay. All right, so I'll just leave this core here the way it is. All right. So basically, I have a nested family, I call it turnstile rod, and just let me show you, what it does is very simple. Nothing is a face-based family for those of you who know what face-based family is, but it's just a rod. It's using I forgot, using revolve, right? So it's just a revolve, simple revolve. Everybody can make that. I just happen to have parameters associated with that, but you don't have to if you don't want it. Again, I build this here because it's face-based, right? So that's the key. Right? I want you to remember, because it's a face-based. So what it does, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this guy. Where did it go? Yeah, I'm going to go back to this guy. Because it's a face-based family. So when I first place this nested family, I'm going to have this placed on face. I'm just basically going to have it hover to the face of this geometry, just like that. This is odd. So let me see, because it's too high. So let me go ahead and bring it down. It's too tall. It's just, okay, much more like that. So let's go back to the plan view. Okay, I just happen to have it at an odd angle. Okay, let me go ahead and switch it to, let's just try 30, see what it does. I'll be 45. I'll be 60. Come on. Okay, so that should work. Okay, because now what I can do is I can kind of position it here. Kind of what I need to do really is to use my move command and try to snap the center of my nested family to the center of this one. So, and it will stay there. It will pretty much stay there. Trust me. And I could do the same, of course, by creating something like this and host it here and host it there, right? And if I go back to this elevation, I have reference plane here. I can simply use align lock. Oops, we do it again. Align. Come on. Align lock. Align lock and align lock. Now it is associated with a reference plane horizontally, basically just like that. Now, again, I could have done better, but for now, I think you get the idea. And watch. Fix it again. First 290. Because again, now because that nested family is the face-based family, it's going to follow the host. When the host rotate, so is the nested family. That's really the key here. So awesome. Therefore, I can now make this as a nested family and then use it here. This guy. Of course, I have that parameter, this rotation parameter, associate back to the host. So now in the host here, yeah, you can see it moved. It rotates. Okay.
Wow. Awesome. Man.
That's all right. I think that's kind of it. I mean, like, I can stay for the Q&A, and but this is kind of what I have to prepare for sharing today.
That is so cool. If you want to just stop sharing your screen real quick, we'll wrap it up a little bit. But no, that was more than enough, man. That was awesome.
How do I do that? Hold on, let me see this.
Just head over to Jitsi and hit the. I think it says stop sharing somewhere on your screen.
Oops. Hold on. Still looking for. I'm not finding that's. No, there used to be there. For some reason I must have turned off that hidden thing. Hold on. Can you actually kick me out from you being a host or something?
Not right this way. Hold on. Let me see. There we go. No. You're good now.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Wow. Mind blown. That was super cool, dude. I honestly, you gave me a little hint into what you were going to be talking about, but not enough where I'm also pumped and surprised with the tips. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Cool. Everyone else here, there weren't a ton of questions. It was more wow and cool and amazing. So go back and read the chat so you can see everyone's reaction to your tips.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then there's a couple of follow-up questions. I think content that maybe, another time we'll have you on and maybe we follow up with some more stuff because this was just super cool. The rotational thing, I never even thought about it. If anyone's followed some of my tutorials in the past, I've been using a tip from Marcelo with using Revolves and hosting to Revolve because you have those angulars parameters. But that gets sketchy because you have a secondary angular parameter. And so it's the same idea, but you have to worry about the 2 and like you said, the breaking of angles if they're too big or too small or less than each other. This thing is just so much easier. You're making a host, and I mean, I'm thinking of the possibilities of it are endless. I mean, there's some really cool possibilities with it, using a sweep for rotating elements. I mean, how cool is that?
Yep.
Man, so cool. Everyone who's stuck around, thank you for sticking around. I don't see any major questions coming in right now. So with that, I'll just say thank you, Phil, so much. This was great. Thank you for taking time. We'll definitely have you on again. We'll give you some time to decompress from being in the spotlight for an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep. It's a really rapid fire tips and tricks. I mean, I haven't done it for a while, but this is all very fun.
So cool though. I mean, this is like the kind of stuff when one of my favorite parts about going to conferences and sitting in classes is usually those little tips and nuggets that you pull out of everything, and that's exactly what you gave us here. So thank you for that, man. I really appreciate it. And I think everyone there who hung around this whole time, we barely had anyone drop off. So they were clearly into it, man.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. And everyone for joining us, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Check me out at therevitKid.com. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. All of the links that Phil wants you to know about and that we might have mentioned throughout this entire thing will be in the description in this video in YouTube, but it'll also be on the blog post tomorrow usually. So Phil, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You can find Phil at the philosophybim.blogspot.com, which again I'll post, or on Twitter, which I'll also post the link to. So any final words, Phil, before we wrap up?
Well, I think let's do it again next time, but let's wait for a couple of weeks or more, but definitely, if you guys are pumped, I really enjoyed it. Seriously, this is probably one of the most fun thing I have done for months. If you know what I mean. So
you just talked to over 100 people online, see, and we're in quarantine still, right? So
yeah. So definitely, if we can make it work again next time, I would definitely be happy to be on the show again.
Awesome, you'll definitely be coming back. Thank you so much, Phil, and thank you all for joining us. With that, I want to bid everyone adieu. Have a great weekend, stay safe, and we'll talk to everyone soon. So have a great night, everyone.
All right.